Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Letting Go with Guy Finley. My name is Leah, and I will be the host for this morning's class. We're glad you're here, joining us from wherever you are in the world. It's always nice for all of us to get together and hear these truth teachings, so welcome. If you are new to our format, Guy will give about a 1-hour talk. After that, we take a 5-minute break, and we come back for the Q&A portion of our talk, and that usually lasts about a half an hour or so. If you'd like to join in on that, you can write a question as you're listening to Guy in the chat box, or if you're on GoToWebinar, you'll be able to speak with Guy directly. And for any of you that would like to go and register on GoToWebinar, you can do that at guyfinley.org/live, and then you'll be able to speak with him directly during the Q&A portion. If you have any questions, tech issues, you can go to the chat area again in whatever format you're on, and Kate's behind the scenes. She'll be monitoring that and able to help you. I think that will get us started. We're here in Southern Oregon with about 15, I think there's 15, 16 students here with me. And then Guy, you want to join us? Guy is in Florida. There he is. He's in, is it sunny there today, Guy?
It's nice. It's nice. It's 72 degrees, which probably sounds like a dream.
Yeah, it's nice. So, very good. Well, we're glad everyone's here. I'm going to go ahead and read the key lesson, title and key lesson, and then Guy will get us started. The top title for this morning is Realize the Indwelling Life of the Divine and End the Pain of Duality. The first key lesson reads, you can't escape any unwanted experience of yourself because that is the experience you don't want. The good news is this experience of yourself is not your true self, but for now, it is largely the only sense of self you're given to know. All right.
Hello to the people in the room, to those of you in Oregon, to those of you gathered wherever you are, hopefully with us in person, but if not, whatever time or place it is, that's always a good thing to do, to give yourself time to reflect on how it is that after so much time in this body, it still feels as often as it does as if we're doing time. And whether or not there's a way to understand that so that in understanding it we transcend that nature that has locked us down, if you will, in this duality that we're going to talk about. Don't get confused. The meaning of this key lesson, you can't escape any unwanted experience of yourself because that is the experience you don't want. It's maddening to hear something like that. What does it mean? I have this unwanted experience of myself and I can't escape it because I don't want it. It simply means that at all points in time, there's something inside of us that has already determined ahead of the time we're in what we should be like and where we should go and what we should have when we get there. And then when we get there, in quotes, we find out that it is not what we imagined. And then we have to go through another cycle of imagining a peace, a kingdom of heaven, whatever you want to call it, so that when we get there, we'll finally be safe. And the point of the key lesson is that this is the only way we know ourselves. If you really stop, and I ask you to, as often as you can, come to a stop, bring your mind to a gentle rest. How do I know myself? What is the experience of myself? And if you look closely at the experience of yourself, you're always on the move. And if you're not physically moving, your mind is telling you you need to move, or your mind is telling you you move too much and now you need to rest. And it's all the same thing, a mind that just never stops thinking about the experience it's having in that moment. And the experience of that moment is produced by all of your thinking. Not by what you're doing or going through, but the way your mind is moving that you're not aware of where it is moving you to and through. And I think this is a good place to bring in this one idea, why Christ said that it was so important for us to have new eyes to see. I can't go into the details behind the whole of that idea. I will touch at the end of this on a new understanding, God willing, of something that Christ said that's so important and that we're going to lead through this material to that understanding. That we're not meant to arrive as we do every day in 1,000 different ways at the meaning of life from our thoughts that tell us about it. How do you know the meaning of a moment? Your mind tells you the meaning of the moment. And your mind gets the meaning of the moment from the nature of the reaction that it's had to that moment. So here comes someone, here comes something. I have a reaction. My thoughts describe to me what that reaction is, good or bad. And then it says the reason it's good or bad is because of this. And now I know the meaning of that moment based on what my thoughts have told me. And your thoughts know nothing. Your thoughts are nothing. They don't exist without something that helps you explain them to you, which is this thinker who's equally ignorant of the fact that it turns to its own thoughts to get out of a problem thinking is made. So here's this real problem that we have. Thought is always telling us the meaning of the moment, when the real meaning of the moment is only realized in one way, and that is that we awaken sufficiently to the illusion that there is a separation between the observer and the observed. All of the thinking is meant to somehow or other bridge this feeling of, I don't know, I'm not quite sure about the meaning of the moment. The meaning of the moment cannot be separated from the moment itself. The moment is the meaning of life, because everything is in that meaning. Everything is in that moment. The whole of creation is literally in every moment of perception. Literally, but we don't see it. We don't have eyes to see it. That's what Jesus was talking about. So if we can start to get this, okay, so I look at Kate, or I look at Mike, or I look at Rebecca or Jill, or whatever I look at, and I immediately have a certain feeling about it, a reaction. You can't help that reaction. But that reaction is conditioned. It tells you from your experience in the past something about that person, and then you know the meaning of that person, and from that you often derive how they'll behave. Now you're sure about their nature, when the only thing that's sure about that moment is that your mind has locked you out of any possibility of knowing anything new about anyone or the moment that you're in. Follow me? So with this in mind, I want to set the stage for something that I think many of you are going to think is radical. But I tell you, it can't be radical enough, what is needed. And what's radical is this idea that the life we're seeking, all of us, the wholeness, the peace, the sense of this divine freedom that we believe lies ahead of us, is not waiting for us somewhere in some time later after we've gained whatever we believe we've gained from the world or whatever it is that we do to escape its troubles. All of our lives are predicated on a certain sensation of being where we are and needing to get to where we need to get to. And then thought bridges the difference between that, consoles us or explains or comes to conclusions. And that's what we call our life, is this being in a stream of thought that is trying to bridge what we want or don't want with a world that gives us what we need or refuses it to us. That is our sensation of life. You'll see this more clearly as we go along. But the fact of the matter is, and I alluded to it in the key lesson, true life and our true self are a singularity. True life and your true self are a singularity. Real life and the indwelling Christ, the indwelling divine, are a singularity. They are not separate. And that nature is always and already fully present. The kingdom of heaven is within. If it's within, that means there's no distance. If there's no distance, that means there's no place to go and nothing to do. There's just something to see. And it is in this seeing that gradually is awakened in a human being that they realize, I've spent my entire life trying to get away from something and trying to get to something. The whole of my life. Get this done, get that done, go there, hope this works out. And when it doesn't, just think through what I need to think through in order to bridge that gap so that I can get on to the next moment that won't be complete for me. Do you see it with me? So I want to read to you the second key lesson that I'm going to ask Eric to bring up. And I will explain this in depth, and I'll read it very slowly for the people in this room, because we can't put it up on this TV yet, but we'll okay, good. The gateway to the Holy of Holies. First of all, do you know what the Holy of Holies is? In every mosque, temple, church, there is an indwelling sanctuary, the place where one always, you're not actually allowed to get into the Holy of Holies in these places. They're reserved for the clergy, for the priests, for the rabbis. The Holy of Holies is the tabernacle of the divine inside that physical dwelling. The tabernacle of the divine, the Holy of Holies. That tabernacle is entered as the seeker awakens enough to see through and realize there is no such time coming when he will be free as he's imagined. That tabernacle is entered as the seeker awakens enough to see and realize there is no such time coming when he will be free as he's imagined. The moment we stop reaching for what we're sure is missing in life, or running from what we fear to see about it, we stand face to face with the silent truth that sets us free. What we are looking for is already within what the divine has made us. Nothing more, nothing less. Now I would like you to just hold for a moment what seems to be this paradox, what seems to be this incredibly challenging statement. What do you mean? That there will be no time in my life when I'm going to reach the freedom I've imagined. What is my life about? Fixing you, getting there, changing this, working that out. My whole life is predicated on a time when I reach some place, some position, I'll finally be free. Everything will be settled and I'll be fine. My whole life. And every thought that I have is a way in which I console myself for I finding out that I didn't get to that freedom or that freedom became my captivity. In either way you want to put it, it's the same. Do you see this with me in the room? No such time when I will find the freedom I've imagined. Why? Because the moment that we stop searching for what we're sure and missing in life, all that thinking, running from what we fear, we see about it, we are standing face to face with that truth that sets us free, and that freedom is that we are already within freedom itself. We are a part of that freedom itself. So you can't reach it. You can't acquire it. You can't own it. Nor can you escape the pain of trying to reach it, because with everything that you reach for, that freedom is that much further away from you. You separate yourself from the very thing that you're reaching for. Do you understand? That mind does that. And if this is true, can you see this much with me? Then what's to be our relationship with life? One day you'll ask this question from yourself. You won't need anyone to help you see it. The whole of my life is about trying to do something, get somewhere, be something. My whole life. I'll have a little more. Do a little more. Earn something special. The whole of one's life. Be seen in a certain way. See myself in a certain way. Because that mind connotes that idea with freedom. Because when it's all in place, I'll be at peace. Except for one thing, which you already know. I never get to that place. And even if I get to that place, whatever the conditions were that allowed me to get there change as soon as I get there, and all of the glory turns out to be gory instead of what I thought would be so good. Is that true or not? Yeah. So what's my relationship going to be when everything fails as it does to unfold the way that it should? And here's what our relationship is meant to be with life. And I talked about this, I think, last Sunday, but I'm not sure. Our new relationship with life is to be at peace with it and our pain as well. That's our new relationship, to be at peace with life as well as with our pain. You can't be at peace with something that you want something from. You can't be at peace that you want something from. Can you tell me why? Because I'm already depending on that, whatever that may be, for that peace, which means I'm already in fear if that doesn't come about as I've imagined it should. So I'm in conflict the very moment that I imagine this peace, because I'm separated from it and worried, if I get it, can I keep it? If I don't get it, what will happen to me? And then the rest of that mindset just goes berserk, as you know. So what's going on behind this? That's what we're going to look at together. First, we're looking at the problem. I'm distinctly laying it out, and I can't do it strongly enough to tell you the truth. You don't know how almost every action that you take is based on a choice produced by a mind that doesn't want to be where it is, feeling what it's feeling in that moment. It wants anything else. So if it has to work its way through all of this other stuff to get there, then by God, that's what I'll do. And that's how most human beings live their life, is full of dread over what their obligations are, failing to see that what they're obligated to is not the world that tells them who they are and what they have to do and be to be happy. They're obligated to the life that gave them life, and when they understand that, their life will change. So here's what's going on. From the moment we're born, and I ask again for you to see this, I am not a teacher. From the moment we're born, one way or another, our feet are set on a path that feels uniquely our own. Does not your path feel uniquely your own? Yes. And it started, God knows what, we never really realized, I know what my path is. I don't know when that happened. Do you know when that happened? Was I 5, 4, 3, 7? At first, my path was just to get off my knees, but I didn't know that was my path. I didn't start walking till I was 17. But when we look more closely, which we must do, we begin to see that this path is really just a variation on a single shared journey made by billions of human beings who have inherited the same hopes, fears, ambitions, and ideals that we have. And that every bit of our journey through this life somehow or other is to attain, acquire, or otherwise escape something that doesn't match what we believe this path is on for. Because everybody wants to get to peace. You narrow it down. Happiness, success, contentment. Can I be at peace with myself? Wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. So we become, without knowing it, captives of a certain kind of narrative. I can't stress this strongly enough. And that narrative is a specific set of ideas that we are indoctrinated with, inculcated about what we should be, how we should feel, how life ought to reward us when we're doing the things that are right. And when life doesn't comply, then the struggle starts again. And when the struggle starts again, we start on that path towards the peace we think we lost, following another set of ideas, or whatever it is that we were inculcated with. I can remember so clearly in my own life, I would like for you to be able to do it without judging yourself. Very distinct moments in my life where I was so sure of exactly how things were supposed to be. Because sometimes things go right, don't they? And you go, oh, that's it. This is fantastic. I'm going to be the next Superman. I'm going to be the next CEO of a major corporation. I'm going to be the next happy mother or the happy husband. I'm going to be whatever it is. And you've never had one object in life that the billions and billions of human beings who have populated this planet before you didn't have exactly the same thing. And in scale, that's part of this life. We're not throwing that out. You're here as a human being. You have responsibilities as a human being. But the task is to always remember the first responsibility. So this painful story begins with a subtle but powerful illusion. And what do you think this story begins with, that subtle illusion? I've indicated it. That somehow that you're on a personal journey. That's the grand illusion. That you're on a personal journey, meant to arrive at a personal paradise, one where whatever discomfort you find is avoided because you have found a way to protect yourself from it. A personal journey towards some kind of security that you feel is guaranteed, if not owed to you. And a personal journey where whatever pleasures or powers you can acquire are guaranteed to be preserved for you through time. That's this personal journey that human beings are on. And you want to see people get angry? You want to see people hang up on me while I'm talking? Just tell them that the personal journey is largely an illusion, even though you must go through a journey that has personal moments in it, for which and by which you can discover the pain of believing in this personal journey to your personal paradise. There is no personal paradise. And you should know that. Have not your personal paradises turned into personal hells, yes or no? That time when you imagined it would be like this or they would be like that, and for a moment they were and then they weren't. For you, where you got to, you thought was at last I'm there, and then you go, at last I need to get out of here and get someplace else. Yes or no? Yes. It's unending. But what if that entire story, that entire personal story is untrue? Because I'm not asking you to believe it, I'm asking you to see it. What if that whole story is untrue? What evidence is there that that story is untrue? And don't get morose here. Don't you dare fall into some kind of depression while I'm talking. That's the antithesis of why we have these talks. What if it's untrue that me sitting in my home, that me in my car, that me in my office, me with my husband, my wife, what if all of that's untrue, that somehow or other I'm going to weave together out of all these things some kind of magic carpet that I'm going to sail over all the troubles in life and arrive in the kingdom of Disney or wherever it is that I want to get to. Because in case you haven't noticed it, the tunnel of love turns into the house of horrors more often than not, doesn't it? Yes. Magoo's Magic Ride or whatever it was. So if the story is untrue, wouldn't that explain a lot of this suffering? Because I can explain my suffering, but it always includes a time where I won't be. In other words, I'm still marching along this personal story. I just haven't got to the right spot on that path yet. So our suffering cannot be separated from this being unconsciously identified with an imagined sense of self that's forever trying to do what? What am I always trying to do? When you're sitting at home and you're... What is that self trying to do? Get everything settled so that I can be at peace, and then I'm real. And I'm real because I've made my life into something real, and nothing's going to mess with it, which, by the way, is the proof that it's not real. Because what's real can't be messed with. You might want to write that down. So if that's true, it leads us to an uncomfortable but necessary question. You ready for the uncomfortable but necessary question? Is this experience of myself, up one moment, down the next, generous then resentful, forgiving then cruel? Is this not the vacillation? Is that the whole of who I am? Is that moment when I'm happy, is that the whole of what I am? Feels like it at that moment, doesn't it? This is great. All I have to do is just tie everything down in this spot and nothing moves. But no, it moves, it vacillates, and it never stops vacillating. But when it's vacillating and there's a certain sense of self derived out of that vacillation, I go, this is I. This is who I am. Don't move. Don't talk. Have you ever had that? You're with people, go, just shh, leave, just not now. Okay, just please. Why? Because I'm at peace? No, because I don't want the imagined peace I'm in to be disturbed by what you perturb in me whenever you open your mouth or move, if that's the event, or suggest something to me. So we experience these sensations because any one of them actually feels in the moment like that's the whole of myself. But here's a problem. There's no end to that need for sensation, because that is my identity. So that sense of sensation, if I can't tie it down or something messes with it, then that nature just moves to another sensation of not wanting what's messed with the old sensation. And now my sensation is full of not wanting. First it's full of wanting, then it's full of not wanting. It's full of yes, and then it's full of no. And I am in that moment the yes, the no, the want, the not want, and then can't figure out why I'm going nuts, because I'm forever trying to keep something in place or get rid of something, and I can't do it. It's impossible. Why? Because everything keeps moving, doesn't it? Yes. So we identify with what? We identify with any of these promises, temptations as they were, that temporarily inflate us. Yeah. Or we identify with the fear that drives us. I got to get away from this, can't take any more of that. And we don't see that we literally pay the price moment to moment for believing not just in the story, but in the sense of self that is derived from the thoughts about it. Because that's what the meaning of life is in the moment. Get a little more of this, get away from a little bit of that. So every problem, we have to start suspecting this, and this is another part that I particularly love, but I don't know that you will. You ever watch those commercials on TV where they're usually talking about some drug? And while they're talking about, yes, this is that, and oh my God, this would be wonderful, underneath in the screen, there's running this really small fine print telling you, however, you may grow horns, your nose may fall off, your legs are going to definitely get shorter, and something terrible is going to take place, but this drug will help you. So without knowing it, every problem that this mind finds a solution to has a fine print beneath the solution. Every problem has a fine print. I don't want to see the fine print. I just want the fine solution. So every solution, even if it brings pleasure, is whispering, please see this, to be continued. You never see it say, to be continued. Because I think if I just can solve the mystery of what's wrong with you, or why they're making me miserable, why I feel so inadequate, why I'm anxious all the time, if I can just solve that, which the mind can't wait for the sensation of solving a problem that doesn't exist, by the way, without the mind's creating it, that the very moment my mind starts settling itself on it, underneath it's going, to be continued. And now I'm asking you, is it not always continued? So when does it stop being continued? No. When you see it's always continued because you continue to identify with those thoughts and feelings that tell you there's a problem, here's the solution. So you're always on one side or another of that equation of self. This is the duality that I'm talking about. The me that wants this but doesn't want that, that's duality. The me that thinks you should be like this because I'm like that, that's duality, that's division. This is the mind in action, this divided mind. And if you can understand that everything says to be continued, you do understand that? At least to some extent. I know that when the problem's there, you're not going to, but hopefully you'll see this. So that means what? If it's always continued, if the problem never finds the peace that the solution to it promises, what's that mean? There's no arriving at freedom. There is no arriving at freedom. At the heart of every true teaching on this planet, and not the psychopathic, idiotic statements of Fruit Loop gurus and the rest of that junk, is that one idea. There's no arriving at freedom, because freedom isn't in the time that you imagine you will get there to it. So if there's no final arriving, can you see that this nature that's always on its way someplace wants nothing to do with that idea? Because that's the last thing it wants. It lives to have a freedom it can't reach, because when it reaches the freedom it can't have, or that's taken from it, or that's conditional, then it can be filled with the sensation of life isn't right, something's wrong with everybody else, and that's why I'm suffering. And it just gets to live the continuity of identification with another sensation. Do you see it with me? Everybody?
Yes.
So the great illusion then is that there's this place just beyond that we must reach, because when we reach it, everything's going to be great. Now, just let this settle for a moment. If there's no place to reach where everything is going to be great, what does that leave me with? Oi. It leaves me with myself. And I don't know it. I'm afraid of that self that I am left with, because all that self knows is the fear of what will happen to it if it can't keep looking for the end of a way to end its fear. It's just this giant loop. So the truth is simple, but it's incredibly difficult to accept. And this should be a key lesson, but I didn't have time to write it out. There is no moment when we can be anywhere other than what we are. There is no moment in time where we can be anywhere other than what we are. That means whatever I am in this moment is the experience of that moment. And until what I am changes, my experience can't change. And the only way what I am can change is when I finally start to understand, to whatever degree it's possible, that I am not now what I think I am, but rather there is something beyond that thought, beyond the identification with sensation, and that the only way I'm going to ever reach that place where I'm actually participating in the life of the divine, in its movement, is when at last I stop participating in the movement of a mechanical mind that never stops trying to escape the experience of itself. Following me, everybody? So until we're at peace with where and with what we are, we're always going to be someone that's in a hurry to get somewhere else, do something else, become something else. That's the fact. And we don't know how to be at peace with what we are. We don't. Because our idea of being at peace with what we are always has some ideological or religious or some kind of philosophical association connected to it, an ideal. And the moment the mind has an ideal, it is trapped on its way to fulfilling and becoming that ideal, which it can never do. And even when you can fully identify with an ideal, you become a time bomb. Because you take somebody who's fully identified with an ideal, and then you cross them on that ideal, they will show you ideally how you should be, because you're not the way you're supposed to be according to their ideal. That's what's poisoned this entire planet. So there's a great question that stands before us. Do we struggle to find a fleeting action? Excuse me, I want to take my time and read this to you. Do we struggle to find a fleeting peace through the action of some endless form of struggle, which is what we do now? Yes? Do we struggle to find a fleeting peace through the action of some endless form of struggle, or do we realize the divine action of a peace that passes all understanding? Totally different. One is a struggle to achieve a peace. The other is to realize the peace already exists. One is a struggle to reach a peace that if I can attain the power of possession, I'll finally be okay with myself. The other is to understand that I'm already a part of that which is true and good and free already. Do you follow where we're going? All right, so now, big shift. Perfect, halfway through. We want to hold all of that in mind. What if you knew, before I make this transition, what if you really knew you're sitting in your chair, in your car, at your office, at a dinner table? What if you really knew that in the moment you felt that sort of contraction, that the onset of another level of stress, a certain anxiety or an enmity with someone or something? What if you actually knew in that moment that the minute you identified with it, the minute that you said I to that sensation and the choices that that self was about to make, what if you knew in that same second you would be dead in the water? You know what would happen? It's fantastic. You would have patience thrust upon you. Not the attempt to be patient, but you would see the absolute need to be patient with a nature that is impatient over everything to get to become, to arrive. Because now you see there's no arrival. You're not going to escape that nature. You can't escape that nature by trying to escape it. It's impossible. Because that's what that nature wants. That is the sense of self. That's the first key lesson that we're always trying to escape, is not wanting to be what I am in that moment and letting that nature promise me there's a path. If I'm just loyal, I'll find it and get to that peace that I've imagined. It doesn't exist. And when you, and it seems like, and I know this, look, you're not going to go through anything that I don't know you're going to go through. When you start seeing this, it feels like your life is coming to an end. Because if you actually understand it, that means that I can't lend a thought, I can't let a choice formulate itself, I can't do one thing other than recognize in this moment there is a nature I did not know was active until that split second, and now it's trying to talk to me and tell me, get anxious, go there, do this, fix that, because then you'll be okay. And then you realize, wait a minute, there is no path that leads to that freedom, following a nature in its pernicious activity that promises but never delivers. None. So there I'm left with what? I have to be patient. And then you know what happens? You discover compassion. Because you realize that the pretending to be compassionate is a crock. You're compassionate because you're sitting there in the pain of that nature, and you understand everybody else is sitting there in that same pain, but they don't know it. They can't be patient with it. And you alone must be the one who takes the first step in that moment. To be that man or woman who lays down their life, not because you want to lay it down, but because you see there's no other choice. God has made it clear to you. The divine has made it clear to you. All of that movement, all of its confusion suddenly coalesces into an understanding called an awakening. And there you are with a completely new set of eyes to see that moment through. Everybody still tracking? So now I can get into this transition. I love this. Please God that you love it too. Because we're talking about one order of being, right? This movement of the mind, deriving meaning from its reactions, then making choices based on that meaning to take some kind of action to produce a peace that wouldn't be a problem if it hadn't disturbed itself. What other nature is there? Nice deep breath. Now I'll describe this to you as if it is you, but imagine, if you will, that you're sitting on a rock, big, you've seen these giant rocks at the coastline, or, you're sitting on a giant rock over a bay. And you're not sitting there wondering what time the taco stand is opening. You're not wondering how long do you have to sit here like, I'm really enjoying this. This was cool for about 10 seconds, but now I want to go look for crabs or something else. I can't sit still. But imagine that you're working inwardly and you want to take in the full impression of that bay. So you're sitting there, and if you do that, you start watching. And if you sit there long enough, which in one respect, I'm not denoting time right now. When I say sit there long enough, it means to see the whole of a movement. And the whole of a movement is everywhere at all moments. But there you are, and you watch that tide as it rolls in. And you're sitting there, you watch that tide roll in. And then at a certain point, because you're still watching, you see that tide that's rolling, and it kind of comes to a stop. And then it seems like everything's still, and then the tide starts to roll out. And you're watching this. It rolls in, and it rolls out. And if you're really watching, your mind will come up with a thought, well, where's everything going? I mean, is that tide going someplace? No. Well, how about when it leaves? Is it going someplace? No. What do you mean it's not going someplace when it comes in or when it comes out? Well, tell me where it's going. It's just a movement. It's just being governed by forces greater than itself, so that it's active and passive, but it's never separate in its activity or passivity. It's always experiencing that which is, it's affirming the circulation of the world, the movement of the moon, and then it's denying it. It's in this perfect constant movement. Water doesn't have a final destination. You watch a river. Where does it end? Where does it begin? It doesn't have a beginning or an end. But the mind will make up one for it. So is that bay in its movement, does it have a final destination, the movement of that tide, or is it participating in a movement that's greater than the mind can name? Yes or no? Yes. How about the pendulum of a clock or any natural rhythm like the seasons? Tell me where one season ends and another begins. On the date when you no longer can wear white because it's summer's past? Did I get that right? My wife says, you can't wear that. It's not the right season. I mean, is there that? Or is that all connected to the tilting of the earth and the way it's angled to the sun? Isn't that all of a movement greater than the mind can identify with? But it wants to know. It wants to tie things down so it can have the right sensation at the right time. And what about our breath? Try to see this with me. When I inhale, is my breath arriving somewhere? I have to hold it there? Because otherwise I'm going to have a problem? You have a problem, I'm going to pass out. You have a problem, don't you? If the breath is arriving someplace, thank God my breath arrived. Does that make sense to anybody? No. What happens when the breath comes in? What happens to it? Well, where's it going? Where's that breath going? It's a movement. It is supporting a body through a movement that itself is part of a movement of a greater body. Got to breathe to have a body. So that all of that is constantly going on, except we don't see it. We don't understand that there is another kind of work that is constantly being done that you and I are intended to be a participant in, not someone trying to take a part of it away the way we do by arriving or fearing some departure that we have to make. Life is not, want to write something down, life is not going somewhere. It is being itself. Life is not going somewhere. It is being itself. Our problem is we don't know anything about being. All we know is going and not wanting to go. Our first order of business is not to do something. It's not to fix something. It's not to escape something. Isn't that pretty much what we think the first order of business is? First order of business is to decorate something. Decorate my life. The first order of business is to be what you're created to be. To be what you are. That's the first order of business. But because we don't have an inlet yet into what it means to be what we are, we substitute being what we are for what we hope to become. And in there lies all this fear and anxiety. So what am I created to be? These are words, but try to see it, given what we just looked at with the bay, the waters, the pendulum, the seasons. We are intended to be a divine nature, realizing its infinite capacity for perfect similarity with our Creator. To be His eyes, to be His mind and His heart, and most importantly, to be His will on earth as it is in heaven. That's what we are created to be. To know this infinite capacity for perfect similarity. If there is just this movement, and this is again, our eyes don't see it, there's nothing that isn't moving. You know, the chair that you're sitting on, the computer you're looking at, your own body, your own hands, your own eyes, your mouth, your teeth, your brain. There's not one thing in creation that isn't moving at all times, which means there is no point in time where something isn't acting to move it. And everything is being acted on in a movement to support the greater creation that all of that movement sees to its coming. That is who you are. That is what you are. But it doesn't have a name. Certainly not your name. And it's certainly not a journey that you go on. It's an understanding that you enter into only as you see through the old understanding that's forever telling you there's something else you've got to do and be if you're ever going to be at peace with yourself. So when we stop insisting that life must be different than it is, as we stop insisting, we begin to glimpse our true self. Now slow down here. Do you think to yourself that there's moments where you're insisting that life be different than it is? Or is there just this wish that life wasn't the way it is? You don't say, I insist life not be like this. You'd be mad, wouldn't you? People go, you're crazy. Well, yes, walk around, I insist you shouldn't be like this. People do say that, but they don't say it in those words. I'm full of insistence. But here's the trick. It's not my insistence. It belongs to an order of unconsciousness, belongs to a nature that doesn't know who or what it is without insisting so that it can resist. Without insisting so that it can resist. Isn't insistence resistance not yet known? Isn't insistence resistance yet not known? Yes, can you see that? Yes. So I don't know I insist that you treat me a certain way. I don't know that I insist I have this, that, or the other. I don't know that I insist I never get old. Or how about I don't know I insist that, nobody should die. I was talking with a good friend of mine yesterday. He's upset because people are dying. I said, people are going to die. He said, yeah, but they were close to me. I said, well, so what? He said, you don't understand. I do understand. We live with an unconscious insistence that everything remain in place exactly the way we need it to be so that what we depend on for our identity is never disturbed. And that's a fool's game. That's a fool's errand. That is the definition, the antithesis of freedom. Dependency of any form is the antithesis of freedom. And that's what we are. We are dependent on not freedom, but our idea of it and the time it takes to get to it, because that is the sensation of my life. Everybody still tracking with me? So when we stop insisting that life must be different, guess what happens? I'm not insisting. I'm suddenly patient. Right? I'm patient because I see this insanity of insisting the moment be other than it is. That's insanity. That's the only life we know. It should be like this, and if it's not, it should be like that. That's my life. When I see that, what happens? That patience comes in, and what takes place as I begin to have that patience? Everything that I was looking at before moves to the background. So that the first becomes the last, and the last becomes the first. I start to see what is instead of hating what isn't. I start to see what is. It's right in front of me. Been there all along. What I described to you about the bay, about the seasons, all of these things that are a participation in a single movement that you are a part of because you're the reflection of it. That's always there, but you don't see it. Why? Because you're looking at something else. Because you're thinking about other things that you need so that you can take part in the movement you've described that gets rid of your misery, which of course it doesn't. So as a movement, we begin to do what? We participate. Like, sometimes I feel so inadequate to the expression of this. Ordinarily, I am, in quotes, at one with this divided nature. At one with this divided nature means I am at one with the sensation of wanting or not wanting. I'm identified with it. That's all there is. But as that is seen as a futility, meaning that can't bring freedom, what happens to me? Then the first becomes the last, and now I'm able to see what? I can see the movement of my own mind as it's insisting that life be how it should. And I start to see, my God, there's the pain. Not what did or didn't happen, but in a mind that's sitting and balancing and measuring everything according to what it believes it needs to complete itself. Am I going too fast? And as I'm sitting there, then I start to see, wow, look at all of this movement. And the movement in myself can't be separated from what's moving outside of me. Because it's a reflection. It's one thing. It's a singularity. Nothing moves in creation that the whole of creation doesn't move. And you are a part of that creation. So there I am, and now I start to see, wow, there's a lot of movement going on. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but I don't like it. What don't you like? The fact that you can see the whole of yourself for a moment, and that what you see as the whole of yourself is full of holes, meaning that it's not the way you're supposed to be? So then the loop starts again, doesn't it? Now you have to figure out what to do so you can be happy and comfortable with whatever is going on. And then that happens time and time again, as it must. You have to go through the iteration. There's no escaping that. But bit by bit, you start to see that if you're not caught up in the movement of the mind and the corresponding reactions with their sensations identified as such, if you're not caught up in that movement, suddenly you're open to another kind of movement altogether that you always were a part of and that we're always being moved with. Not moved by, moving with. Understand the difference? Moving with. And then you start to understand that there is this other kind of movement within a greater movement as a wheel within the greater circle of God's life. Let's bring up the third key lesson, please. Read along at home with me. As we are at present, we listen to our thoughts. We look at what our reactions tell us that we must attend to, and our body is filled with a host of vacillating sensations produced by this divided mind as it tries to decide which of these thoughts and reactions will best serve its conditioned need. The end of this struggle with life is seeing it as it is for the first time. The end of our struggle with life is seeing it as it is for the first time. And the advent of this higher order of seeing marks the awakening of being. And the awakening of being is your entrance into your awareness of the kingdom that you have always been in, its movement not separate from your own, and most importantly, its movement as the fulfillment of your life. Because the meaning of everything is contained in that movement that you are seeing, participating as it's revealed to you. And then you become a living revelation. You become the mirror of revelation, which is what you're created to be. So perhaps this is the miracle hidden in every moment that we have resisted. That the very life we've been trying to outrun has been patiently waiting for us to come to a stop. So that that life might reveal itself, not as something we must attain, but as something we've always been. Now, I've got 8 minutes. I'm going to give you a special kind of exercise, but I want you to listen to it. I don't want you to mechanically absorb this. For years and years and years, I have wondered over a certain passage from the New Testament, because it never made sense to me. Christ says, for wherever 2 or 3 of you are gathered in my name, there shall I be. Well, is it 2 or 3? I mean, is 2 not enough? Well, why is it 2 or 3? And what about 4? Why, wherever a bunch of you are there, I'm there. Now, maybe that never bothered you, but I know there was something hidden in it. Well, I'm going to explain to you what's hidden in it with this exercise, relative to participating in this divine movement of God's life that you are a part of and intended to participate in. The exercise is simple. Write it down. Write down these words and then I'll explain them to you. Listen, look, sense. Listen, look, sense. What does it mean? Listen, look, sense. First, let's do it for a split second. Become aware of your ears. Listen, you become aware of listening. You ever wake up, in the middle of the night? You're really listening, right? I'm really listening. I go someplace beautiful. I can't take enough. I really look. I give all of my attention to what I'm looking at. I really want to sense something. I'm there at the bay, and I can intuit there's something deeper to sense here about this moment. And I want to take in all of the senses. The task is to listen, look, and sense all at once. That's the task. And you can practice this. You go sit in your deal and just be aware of listening, then be aware of looking, then be aware of sensing. I can sense my body, I can listen, I can see. These are separate senses that collectively produce an impression beyond greater than the sum of their parts. And here's where wherever two or more of you are gathered in my name comes into practice. If you can listen and look at the same time, you will automatically be gathered in the name of, and by the way, when they say the name of, in my name, Christ was not talking about, in quotes, his name. The word name, onamo, simply means wherever you are gathered for the purpose of being a part of this understanding, a part of this life. So if I'm gathered and I'm bringing together my what I'm looking at and what I'm listening to, or what I'm listening to in my senses, I talked about this yesterday at length. Why don't I feel my body getting tense when I'm listening to my thoughts telling me there's a problem? I'm not aware of this dichotomy, of this split. Why is it when I'm looking out and seeing a problem to come, why aren't I aware of these negative thoughts that are already defining the meaning of that moment? Because I'm all scattered. I'm completely divided. I have a dual mind. But to be able to look and listen and sense at the same time, which you have to practice, you have to understand the meaning of it, suddenly I'm gathered there in the name. I'm bringing myself to this point in time for the purpose of recognizing that there is another movement that I can be one with. And as I enter into that new movement by practicing it, and you're not creating the movement, you're entering into something that's already there. When you see the waters move, you watch. I used to love in Ojai, and in where did we live, in Oregon, there's these fields. And the wind, I couldn't watch it enough. If you ever watched the wind whip through a field of high, tall grasses and stuff like that. And it's just magnificent. Why? Because you're moving too. Not one blade of grass moves that you don't have a corresponding part. As it says in Scripture, not a bird falls from the sky that your Father doesn't know about. What does that mean? It means there's the total connectivity in all of this movement that you and I are intended to know as ourselves, and not a self that's looking for some way through its designed movement to arrive at some kind of peace or pleasure, because it can't be found that way. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. God did not put the spirit of fear in a human being. The spirit of fear belongs to a mind that imagines God and the kingdom of heaven, that imagines its paradise, and then forever runs into problems that seem to deny what he deserves or she thinks she should have. The clearer that becomes to you, the more inwardly patient you'll become, the more patient you become inwardly, the more you'll be able to see all of this movement that you're blind to now. And then you'll stop fearing the movement of your own thoughts. You'll stop fearing what you see is part of the content of that thinking. You'll stop running from the sensation of moments you don't want, because you understand it's a movement. And when you can see everything that's moving, guess what you are when you can see all that's moving? You are the stillness itself. Let's take a quick break. We'll have a little music, and then we'll come back and have our dialogue.
All right, we are back from our break and it's time for the Q&A with Guy. So for those of you that are on GoToWebinar, you can go ahead and raise your hands. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, you can write a question in the chat area and I will ask Guy that on your behalf. Or if you want to speak with him directly, you can go to guyfinley.org/live and register on GoToWebinar, and then you can speak with him directly. So we look forward to that. We'll get started shortly. Just a couple quick announcements. We are a nonprofit organization and we do rely on donations from everyone around the world to keep these classes going. So you can go to guyfinley.org/donate. And whatever you can give is always appreciated. We're towards the end of the year now, so it's a nice time to do that. And for any events that we have going on, we have classes throughout the week. You can go to guyfinley.org/events. And our next class is Wednesday night. That's a classic talk by Guy. And then we have a student study group that everyone's invited to on Friday nights. And that's at 6 o'clock Pacific time. And we welcome you to join us on that. And that's where different students get together and we all share what we're learning together and learn from each other. So we invite you to join us there. Guy, do you want to come on and we can get started with the Q&A?
I have no choice but to come on when Katie pushes the button.
Okay, there he is.
I have a comment to make before we get into whatever we're going to get into.
Fantastic.
So often I hear a certain confusion voiced or a complaint even. Well, you know, what you're talking about, how am I supposed to be able to do that? You know, I'm this kind of person, I'm in this situation, and what you're describing just doesn't gel. And I've formulated a question that if you answer it honestly, you will see that there's absolutely no contradiction in this idea of living from another order of awareness, another order of being, with fulfilling the purpose of whatever your personal ambitions may be in this world. Whatever particular leg of the journey you're on can be seen in a completely different way. And here's the question. Is there anything that goes on in the depth of a valley that interferes with what you can see of it from the mountaintop? Is there anything going on in the valley that interferes with what you can see from the mountaintop? Or does the view from the mountain contain everything going on in the valley? That's the answer to that sense that you have of, I don't understand how that can work. It's said that our Father's kingdom has many mansions. What isn't said is that you are all of those mansions. You are the valley and you are the peak. You are the rain and you are the desert. There isn't anything that exists that is not a part of your nature. And every one of those natures is relegated to a kingdom, and every kingdom is connected. And when you are connected to the understanding of that nature, then you understand all kinds of things can be going on in the valley. I can be on fire in the valley. I can be so full of anger or impatient. I can be crazy in the valley, but if I can see it from the mountain, then I'm no longer participating solely in what the mind has produced and then tries to escape from itself. Then there's this gradual change, a transition between where one lives inwardly at all times. Because now you know where the peace is. The peace is on the mountaintop, not in the valley. But it doesn't mean you don't have activities in the valley. Understood? Yes. Okay.
Okay, Guy, we have Janice has her hand up, so we'll go ahead and get started with Janice. Janice, I'm unmuting you. You can unmute yourself. Okay. Well, there we go.
Hello?
Hi.
Am I here?
You're here.
I didn't even press the button, but here I am.
It's a miracle.
Yes. So I've been sitting here thinking about the lower nature and thinking that it also has its purpose to reveal. So as I say, why the lower nature? Why do we have to be that way? But there's a reason for it.
Yes, there is.
It's complementary.
What did she say last?
Both sides.
Complementary.
Oh, yes, absolutely. The husk around the kernel of corn is required for the kernel of corn to become a corn stalk. All of these are kingdoms. All of these are mansions inside of this consciousness, levels of being. Each level of being is intended to serve the level that it is underneath and that is served by the level above it. It is a movement. The whole image of the yin-yang, all of that Ouroboros, all of that circulation, it has to circulate through something. Something must give itself up so that something can be born. The fall must give way to the winter give way to spring. The weight of the pendulum must give way to the passivity, all of that movement. We are that movement, not separate from it. And when we understand that, our lives have a different order of peace to it because we're not trying to profit from any given moment. That's the big thing. All of us have this idea of what it means to be profitable. Christ said, what does it profit a man or a woman to have gained the whole world and lost their soul? He was speaking directly to this nature, not to you or I, certainly not condemning or judging, just saying that there's something else for you to do that's a lot more important than trying to be profitable according to what your parents and their parents and everyone else on this planet told you was the meaning of life. That idea of the meaning of life and the misery it brings belongs to the lower nature. The lower nature has to be seen for what it is so that then it can begin to feed through its passing the eventual positive outgrowth, the transition from one nature to another. That's the best I can say.
She muted her.
Okay, sorry, I thought she was done. Janice, are you done?
That's a nice way to say it, Leah. I hope you're done, Janice.
Janice, unmute if you had something. I think you were just saying thank you.
Okay.
Oh, onward. We're going to go to.
I'm back.
Oh, good.
Welcome to a friendly place.
Why not? Anyway, I wanted to say, I was seeking many years, and I found you and your teaching and all the people there, and I'm so appreciative and thankful, and you guys are awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome, Janice. And this work that we are all doing and what has provided for us, there is nothing more awesome than that. On we go, Leah.
Okay. Thanks, Janice. Skywalker asks, my wife asked me, do we like to suffer? Do we stay in our minds because of a sort of addiction to suffering?
My wife asked me, do we like to suffer? Do we stay in our minds because of a sort of addiction to suffering? Well, the short answer is yes. But you'll never convince somebody that they like to suffer until they're sitting there long enough seeing their suffering has never saved them. And so there's no choice but to stop or at least try to see what's going on. And then the shock of all shocks is that, oh my God, there is something inside of me that wants to suffer. You know, I didn't put it in the talk because I didn't have time, but I can do it now because I like it, and it's connected to this. Another insight into an old story, Skywalker, to answer your question, because isn't it inconceivable to you that you are participating in punishing yourself? That's inconceivable. Well, I don't know who told this story originally, and don't get ahead of me because you don't know where it's going. There's this turtle sitting by a river, and this scorpion walks up to the turtle. No, I said, don't get ahead of me. Well, you just did. I was watching you. I got that. I know that story. The scorpion walks up to this turtle and says, you know, I see you're about to go across the river, and I need to get there too. Will you give me a lift? Because you can swim, I can't. Turtle says, heck no, not about to do that. What do you think, I'm crazy? You're a scorpion. You'll sting me and we'll both drown. Scorpion says, I won't do it. I swear to God, I will not sting you. Really? I promise. Okay. Scorpion climbs on the back of the turtle, starts to swim, gets halfway across, zap. Down they both go. Now, what do you think that story means? Incidentally, it's connected to the blind shall lead the blind, and both shall fall in a pit. Self-ignorance doesn't know it's ignorant. The turtle and the scorpion are one mind. They're not two separate creatures. They're a nature that is naive to its content, and there's the content it's naive to. All one thing, not knowing it's one thing, which is why when the turtle believes the scorpion, it actually believes the scorpion won't be a scorpion. But a scorpion is a scorpion. And a turtle that believes in a scorpion is inseparable from the scorpion that takes its life. Can you see that? The turtle shall lead the scorpion, and both shall sink in the river. Anyway, now I got to add that. On we go, if there's somewhere to go. Anyway, that's the answer, Skywalker. That is the answer. See if you can explain that to your wife. No, I'm serious. It'd be great effort to try. You know what? I know it's crazy, but I don't know if you've seen it, sweetheart. Something in you likes to stew. Something in you sits and has enemies, and it likes to think about them. Why? Because that mind is telling you if you just think about them enough, you'll get rid of them or fix them or do something that changes them. But it never happens, and it can't. And even if it doesn't change anything, because that nature is going to sting itself with something else. It'll find someone else that it doesn't like to carry across the river and drown with. On we go.
Okay, we have a question that came in from YouTube. And then if there's anyone in the room there or anyone in the room here that would like to speak, or again, if you're on GoToWebinar, go ahead and raise your hand. So from YouTube, how can sensible boundaries relate to the threat of physical pain? For instance, if you're in a job and you push through pain against your instinct and further injure yourself, how do you discern between pain that is imagined and pain that is genuine threat to the quality of your life?
Stop imagining and start testing. I don't know how long it takes before a person realizes they spend all their time in their head. Every question like that is answered by action, not by thought. No action, no understanding. No understanding, no development. Find out. You know why we don't want to find out stuff like that? Because what if I make a mistake? But if I actually know I made a mistake, the correction is in the action. And then I know not to do that again that way. Then there'll be something else for me to look at and experiment with. I do that all the time myself, left over from YouTube. Is that a person's name?
What?
Nothing.
No,
I know. You have to test. You're sitting there, you're morose. Get your rusty dusty up and do something so you change centers. So you can test whether or not you're actually that dead person waiting for death to take you over. Sometimes I like to play golf. Sometimes because I've had some serious injuries in my life, sometimes there's a lot of pain out there. But I always test it. And then sometimes I find out that ego or this mind, this ambition, it doesn't care what the body goes through, and that nature will actually punish its own body. But then I learn, you know what? Why would you punish your own body? But I didn't know I was punishing my own body. I thought I was testing it. And then I know there's a certain place that you don't go beyond. And even that you have to test because conditions change, and so do the experiments that you make. It's a life. It's called a life. Don't you want a life? Life isn't about being safe. Life is about discovering there's no one there that can fail. Because as long as you can discover something new, you're on their path to a new relationship, to the movement that reveals that to you. So that's my answer left over from YouTube.
Okay, we have a question from Annette. There is so much work, study, intensity, pressure, and goal achieving in academia, in pursuing careers. If we stop and breathe and maybe reevaluate things, we may need a break or an outlet, although sharing the knowledge and teaching may make the work worthwhile.
You know what thought came to me, Annette? And please take it rightly. The thought that came to me, O ye of little faith. What a nightmare it is to believe that you are, as you imagine, the director of all possibilities in your life. Without knowing it, and perhaps for the longest time, you are brought along a specific path where you believe that you are the one making the choices that have delivered you to this spot, and the bad choices you should be punished for, and the good choices you should be rewarded for, and all of that is nonsense. Everything about this life is the constant experiment of an order of consciousness literally working with a kind of quantum field of energy that the self never even knows about, producing endless experiments and experiences, all of which are intended to lead the individual to a totally new relationship with that field, with their life, and with the freedom that's already a part of their life. So we have to begin to realize, Annette, as difficult as it is, yes, work, study, pressure, intensity, goal achieving. It's not in academia. The guy that's sitting on the bus stop with no money, he's sitting there judging himself or wishing that he could do something, figuring out how he can gain an advantage. His mind is active just the way everybody else's mind is active. It's just that it's active and taking part in a movement that is not his own, but that belongs to the consciousness that brought him to that place and time. There does come a moment, and I can tell you for a certainty, where you understand that if you'll enter into the moment, listening, looking, and sensing, if you'll enter into the whole of the moment as patiently as you can, and let what that moment wants to reveal to you do what it's intended to, then you'll find a new meaning, not just in that moment, but of your relationship to it. And as that new meaning dawns inside of you, which it will unfailingly, you'll start to understand that there are certain things I need to do, and there are certain things that that something in me demands that I do, and you will stop answering to the demand, because you'll want in increasingly strong ways. You'll just want to, you'll want to be at peace. Again, being at peace does not mean being a living zucchini, some passive creature sitting there in a constant meditative state. That is not what being at peace is. Being at peace is understanding the goodness of God's life that you are intended to be a movement within and participate in. And you can only find that as you stop resisting and you stop insisting, and then let all of that fall back where it's intended to be as an aspect of your life instead of the whole of your life as you now imagine it is. On we go, Leah.
Okay, we have nothing else on this end. Do you have anyone there that wants to speak?
No one's leaping up here. Oh, wait a minute. Spoke too soon.
Okay, and Robert just raised his hand also.
Okay.
So we'll go to whoever's there, and then
I'm
Robert.
I'm sitting next to Jill.
Great.
Nice and loud.
Okay. Louder?
I don't know, keep talking.
Okay, so I was performing a task yesterday,
She was performing a task yesterday,
and
and
up came an irritation,
up came a major irritation,
and I felt it.
and I felt it.
I saw it.
I saw it. I'm having fun.
Okay.
Don't rain on my parade, Kate.
And something in me wanted to escape.
Something wanted to escape. I'm like Ed McMahon on the Johnny Carson show.
And this part of me got up, moved around, and then came back to the task. And when I came back, you know what happened?
No.
It happened again.
Oh.
And then it happened again.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to do. And I just said, I don't know what to do.
Good.
And that's what I did.
Good.
Oh, good.
Look, if you really understand, I'm in hell. And everything that I know to do doesn't free me from hell. Then what am I left with? I'm left with being in the hell of my own nature and recognizing that it doesn't know what to do with itself. I don't know what to do with it because that nature can't instruct me because it's never endingly lying to me. I'm just going to have to sit here and do what? Participate in what I'm being given to see about my nature. Now, if I sit and participate in what I'm being given to see about my nature, suddenly there is a separation because now I see my nature instead of just being it. Do you understand me?
Yes.
So when you start to see your nature, that's the beginning of separating the wheat from the chaff. That is the beginning, the initial step a person has to have. It's bloody shocking that I don't know what else to do except hate where I am and wish it weren't that way. I don't know what else to do. My God, what has become of me? What am I? And you sit with that long enough and you will no longer want to be Jill. You'll understand the necessity of suffering that nature instead of saying I to it. Because when you're resisting yourself, because that's what's going on, right? I don't want to be... That you love it. You love it. It loves resistance because that way what it's insisting on must be true. It's insisting things shouldn't be that way. My resistance proves that's true to me. Do you understand that?
Yes.
That's all you need to see. Stay with what you know, not with what you don't. And when you understand, I really don't understand this, you'll be sitting right where you need to be to see everything you need to see, and you will be given a new step. You'll understand something you didn't understand before. That's the best I can explain it to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Guy, we're going to go to Robert has his hand up, and then Heidi just walked in if we have time for that.
Great.
I will unmute Robert. Hi, Robert. You can unmute yourself. Okay.
We got nothing.
Robert, you can talk. You're unmuted. Okay, we're going to pause Robert. Gloria's hand just went up, so let's see what Gloria. Hi, Gloria. There we go.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly, Gloria.
Oh, good, because I'm in my car talking to you and driving and listening to everything. And the words you spoke today, and thank you for bringing this up where there are more than two that gather together.
Yes.
Yeah, I was always questioning that as well. And yeah, now that makes sense. Being of the heightened awareness, the listening, the seeing, the sensing.
Yes.
Everything around you pulls together. But with that being said, I love that because the divine speaks like through the heart. And I just follow that guideline. It's just like, I don't even react. I don't even process or think. I just respond the way my heart wants to respond. Quickly.
Let me,
You know,
yeah,
just-
let me say,
It's crazy.
it is crazy. Let me say a couple things quickly, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This is why it's so difficult. God help us. In this fallen state, we actually believe that suffering over something unwanted is natural. I believe that being anxious is natural. I believe that having an enemy is natural. I believe that, but the I that believes that is not I. It belongs to this unconscious nature that all of us are born into, that we are immersed in, and that we are conditioned with to see life through its eyes. When you see it is unnatural to have an enemy, you'll see it's unnatural to have an enemy because of how much it hurts you to have one. When you see it's unnatural to be anxious about any given moment, you'll see it's unnatural because it is so painful to be anxious. But when I'm anxious about a moment or I have an enemy, I'm not feeling what my body's going through. I'm experiencing the promise of being free of that enemy or getting to the end of that anxiety. So I'm identified with a sensation that is the flip side of that dual nature. When I'm present, when two or more of me are gathered in that moment, when two or more of these senses are present, all of a sudden I see the whole. And now I don't believe anymore in what my mind is looking at, what my reaction is telling me, because I can simply see it's lying. How do I know it's lying? A, I've been here 1,000 times. B, this is killing me. Unnaturalness kills a human being. When you die to what is unnatural in you, you find life. But it isn't life that you find because you died to what's unnatural. You find that life was what was showing you at last how unnatural a human being you are when you're negative. It is unnatural to be negative, and we're always negative. Are we not? Thank God something can see. But now you have to ask God to help you bear what you see. Because as you see this chronic negativity, which is the principal definition of this self derived from that sense, as you see that, well, I don't know what else to be. In fact, the more I don't want to be negative, the more negative I get. Depressed, angry, anxious, worried, what's going to happen? And then you stay there, two or more gathered, in the name of that understanding that's saying, I want to be a participant in this, in the will of God, in the movement that He creates. And then you'll see the first becomes the last becomes first. Everything shifts. There's a shift, and you move from one level of being to another. But it wasn't you that moved you, and there wasn't actually a movement from place to place. There was a change in understanding. There was a change in the amount of light in that consciousness that now was inclusive of things it couldn't see before. On we go.
Okay, I'm going to have Heidi's going to come in, and then we will give Robert another try, see if we can get him in. And then Janice, your hand is up again. So I'm not sure if I'm going to put your hand down. There we go. Okay, so we'll do Heidi and then Robert.
And then we'll close for the day.
Great.
Hello, Guy.
Hi, Heidi.
Hi, I just wanted to come on and say thank you for this talk. I loved it when you said that this mind it never stops wanting sensation, always filling itself. And I just wanted to give a quick example of what I watched in my body. Do you know, I don't think my legs and my feet have ever sat still, maybe my whole life.
That's possible.
And as I sat and listened today, for some reason I had a lot of attention on my thighs and relaxing my legs and sitting there. And for the first time, it felt all right to be still. And it doesn't sound like much, I'm sure, well,
Oh, no.
but for me, it was kind of an epic moment.
To the contrary, Heidi, it is a very important observation. You walk around and you can see everywhere people who are in constant movement, their face, their body, their feet, their legs, constant movement. That's, in animal terms, that's called sparking over. If you ever watch a squirrel, when a squirrel gets upset on a tree, it goes like that with its foot. That's what it does, because there's too much energy passing through and it doesn't know what to do with it. And it's also a signal, don't mess with me, I'm a squirrel, But the point is that it's the outcome of unresolved conflict. The mind is in a fight with itself, and it doesn't know it's in a fight with itself. It's struggling to resolve something it doesn't know that it's even struggling with, and all of that energy is creating a pressure, and that pressure is not used, instead it's passed off to certain parts of the body, and then that body manifests that energy to get rid of it. It squanders the energy that could be used to change the moment, the relationship to the moment. As you've described, you saw, that's invaluable. You keep up your good work that way, okay?
Aye. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we will give Robert another shot here. Robert, you can, let's see. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, Robert, you're unmuted. Can you go ahead and speak? Yeah, Robert, something's going on with your audio. It just doesn't seem to be working.
If nothing else, perhaps Robert can write his question out and we can deal with it next Sunday or Saturday, as the case may be. But for now, we'll call it an afternoon. Remember, wherever two or more of you are gathered in my name, remember to work, listen, sense it, look, see all that you can, sense everything possible, bring those together inside of yourself as best possible. It takes work. We're not used to working with our own bodies, with our own senses, because it's all been mechanical, but no more. Do your work. You'll see something new. It will encourage you. It'll develop faith in the process. And that process will lead you unfailingly to be a participant in this broad, grander movement of God's life. I'll see you all later.